Yo, it's your boy back with another video or whatever. And I've got a lot of videos and recordings in the back burner. And I say a whole lot, but it's probably like 3 or 4, but it's still quite a bit that I need to just upload because all it really is like a click of a button, but I'm not doing it. But this recording is going to be on something that it's going to be a topic that pertains to a minority of my viewers, but it's still a topic that I think is important to discuss. And that is Black intellectualism, okay? Now, I consider myself to be a Black intellectual, not in the sense to say that I have a very high intellect or anything of that matter. I just like using my intellect to solve problems and issues, right? A lot of people, are business savvy. There's some people that are trade savvy. There's some people that are networkers. Me, I'm just an intellectual. I'm just a book smart person. So how does that pertain to the relation with also being Black, okay? For me, the relationship that the Black intellectual has with the environment around him is that he can't really separate race from his intellectual identity. And what do I mean by this? I mean that all of the philosophical pursuits, the solution-based thinking, all of these avenues, when it comes to being Black and an intellectual, a lot of times, automatically people assume that those modes of thinking have to go back into the Black community if you are a Black intellectual. And if you're a Black intellectual and you're doing things besides, if you're doing things that aren't related to that goal, then, something's wrong, or you're a sellout. If something is not going back into the culture when it comes to your intellectual pursuits, then there's a problem, right? I mean, nobody really bats an eye, if a Black person, is researching about, civil rights issues, like they're really savvy on civil rights issues, or they're really savvy on African history or whatever. But if you're somebody that's really savvy on, let's just say, STEM, or, any pursuit or any area that, Black culture isn't necessarily interested in, then you're not really going to have a whole lot of support coming your way. And a lot of times when support does come your way, it's when you're already successful. Like, I can think of a lot of times you have the within history you have the first Black this, first Black that. And when we look at the people that accomplish these things, we always look at the fact that they're the first Black person to do these things. Not that, we look at more so the fact that they're a Black person that did it, and less of the fact that, they did this accomplishment in itself. We look at it as, a Black person was able to do this, and not as, this is what the person themselves actually accomplished. Going back to the point, when you're a Black intellectual, you're a Black intellectual. You're not just an intellectual. Now, for me, when it comes to my intellectual pursuits, you look at my channel and y'all can already see a lot of what I pursue. I pursue philosophy, a little bit of sociology, and the occult, which I don't really share on my channel, but I intend to at some point. I just got to get around to it. But that's what a lot of my mental manpower goes towards, and those are things that you know black people are not really interested in. They're not really, they don't really have, like I said, like an interest in those topics. You're not really gonna find a black person that reads Evola, which there's a lot of other reasons for why a black person probably wouldn't read Evola. Evola's writings, especially if you read like The Beau and the Club, where he talks about the negrification of America. It can be kind of hard to read if you're a black person yourself, but my point stands that a lot of the writings and stuff that I delve into and that I consider to be the foundation of my intellectualism can't really assimilate into I can't really assimilate that knowledge into the black community, because it's just not really possible. Versus somebody that studies civil rights stuff and like I said, black history, they can assimilate that stuff into the community a lot more easily than I could myself. So with the path of the intellectual, if you go down taboo roads, or you go down esoteric roads that are alien to your culture, then there's a certain energy that will be attached to you of being an outsider. It's kind of similar to the black nerd archetype, where again, going back to it, you're a black nerd. So if you're not, like, let's just say, for the black nerd, if you're not into anime, or like freaking what's a whole lot of stuff what's nerdy stuff that black people look at, like if you're not into anime or Shaw Brothers movies, then there's something is gonna be wrong with you. Like if you're the type where like I said, you read very weird philosophy books, you read very, and I say weird as in foreign. I'm not saying weird as in there's anything bad. If you read materials that are foreign to the, I guess you can say that are foreign to what, again, I keep using the word interested, but I don't really have a vocabulary right now. It's like freaking 10 something. But again, things that are not really of the interest of black people, then there's going to be something wrong there, right? One black nerd is valued over another. And the reason why this is, a problem, even though it doesn't seem like a problem, is because when it comes down to, intellectualism in the black community, it's a lot more severe and a lot more strict, compared to other communities. Because, like I said, like there's certain things that, there's certain paths that really you cannot take within the black community, or else you're going to be seen as, something is wrong with you. Versus in other communities, like let's just say, for instance, white people, if you're white, you can use your intellectualism to go in any route you see fit, and your white identity will not be attacked, because within that community, the identity of being a white person and the identity of being an intellectual, they can go in many different ways. They can be controlled in, separate spheres, and they can be respected as being separate things. But within the black community, it's seen as, your intellectualism has to also be connected to the culture. And if it's not connected to the culture, then you're an outsider. Not just in the fact that your intellectualism is, taboo in itself, but also because, again, you're black doing this. So there's a taboo-ness to that as well. And, I know for sure that, this is the case for white people. I don't know if this is the case for Asian populations. It's probably the same for the Latin community. I'm not 100% sure. Like I said, I'm not Latin. I'm just speaking on my race. But for sure, black intellectualism is it's an element within our community that obviously it's one of those things where it's just understood. It's just understood that within our culture, nerds, intellectuals, academics that are black are really they're accepted under certain pretexts, and they're accepted under certain conditions. Those conditions being that whatever they pursue and whatever they essentially do has to go back to the community. It can't be a pursuit that only benefits them as an individual, because if that's the case, then like I said, you will be seen as an outsider. Nobody will really conversate with you like that, or you might have to keep your you might have to keep those things hidden to yourself if you're black. So there's definitely, I do feel like that definitely goes on within the black community. And it might not be the case for everyone, but it's the case for a significant amount of people. And since I've lived through it, it's a case. I'm a case study in itself. And it's just something that should be discussed a little bit more often. But anyways, this is Jalen signing out. Peace.